Welcome to Scholarships 101. By the end of this presentation, you will hopefully have new information about websites that are available to be able to fund your education. And the other goal is for you to learn how to write a scholarship essay. This type of information can be useful both for scholarship applications, but for students who are applying to universities that require an essay, this information may also be of use to you. In preparation for college, we must learn how to spend wisely and at the same time how to save money. Often, there are students who have never had the freedom to have a debit card or a credit card, and so when parents prepare their monthly budget or the semester budget or the quarter budget, students end up getting a debit card or a credit card, and as a result of that, they learn by making mistakes that they shouldn't be eating out all the time. They shouldn't be just sliding that card and wasting the money in entertainment or other items, because later on there will not be any money for food or books or any other necessities. The other item that happens is often when a student starts using that debit card, they don't keep track of their expenditures, and later on there may be some bank fees as a result of overspending money. In the past, I have worked with students who end up living in their car for a temporary period of time as a result of not being able to pay rent because they overspent their funds. Other students develop new friendships in colleges and universities, but because they have been feeling lonely because they are away from home, these friendships often come together as a result of having meals and spending time together. That means the students go out there, they spend all this money, and eventually they run out of the funds that they had. Here what we see is some information from the United States Census Bureau. What it shows us is on average what people are making depending on their level of education. It is important for us, though, to keep in mind that some careers will not require a doctorate and still provide a living wage. For example, if you're going to be a nurse, often nurses, you can get a degree in about 3 years, depending on what level of English, what level of math you start in college, but often it pays about $60,000 to $70,000 a year. And if you have a bachelor's degree in nursing, which may require about 5 years of your life, sometimes you can make up to $100,000 a year. So you do not all need a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctorate, but it is important to get an idea. You have to ask yourself, what is my goal? What type of lifestyle do I want to have in 10 years? And how hard am I willing to work from now until then to be able to have that specific lifestyle? In college, students should be interning. That means that they'll have the opportunity to put that idea of a career, maybe in nursing, maybe in law, maybe teaching, to work. The goal here is that by doing an internship, it increases the possibilities for future employment for the student. It also will provide real world experience for the student to be able to determine if this is in fact the career that they want to pursue. The students will also be able to increase the possibilities of being accepted maybe to a university or a master's or a PhD program later, because they'll be able to demonstrate that they are familiar with what is expected in the career. The other thing that we want students to do, and in fact we want them to do it not just in college, but in junior high school and high school, is to apply for scholarships. There is a scholarship that we're going to mention in a few minutes called the Jack and Cook Foundation Scholarship for 7th graders, for 12th graders, and for community college students who are transferring to a university. Therefore, some students in 7th grade can find out that their education for the most part could be paid off. Other students can apply in the 11th grade for other scholarships, and we'll mention a website that has over 1.5 million scholarships. The other item that is important is for students to maintain a part-time job. Again, it teaches students what time am I supposed to be there, how to dress properly, what are the interactions I'm supposed to have, so that these students will be better prepared for when they actually get a degree and go to work. Oftentimes, when students reach the 12th grade, they'll start getting emails, letters, text messages, and other ways to communicate with them that says, hey, we are looking for you to support you in getting those scholarships. It is important for us to keep in mind that your information is being sold and bought, and as a result of that, they find out that you're getting ready to graduate. But be very wary about scholarships that say, like, this scholarship is guaranteed or your money back, or enter your credit card number in the space provided. There is plenty of information about good scholarships where you don't have to pay for it, which is also why we are creating this video. Before we get to how to write a scholarship and what other scholarships are out there and available for students, we must recognize that the federal government has a program called the Pell Program or the Pell Grant Program, which provides up to $6,195 to the most needy students in the United States. This program opens up every October 1st and goes usually until March 2nd of each year. Students who are graduating high school this year should start applying for that program on October 1st, and it is available for U.S. citizens, residents, and at least those who have the T1 visa. Other individuals may qualify. Please contact your local financial aid office at the community college or university to get more details. There are other programs. In California, for example, we have the California Dream Act. The California Dream Act says if an undocumented student is able to attend a California high school for 3 years and graduate, they are able to pay what we call in-state tuition, which means they pay the same as everybody else, and they can apply for the Cal Dream Act. For those who are the most needy students, they might be able to qualify for an additional $1,600 to be able to pay for their college education. We know that's not going to cover all the expenses, but it's just a form of assistance. U.S. citizens, residents, and those with a T1 visa, by applying for FAFSA, they are automatically applying for the Cal Grant, which can also give them additional funds, maximum $1,600. But this program, the Cal Dream Act, is specifically for undocumented students who again attended high school, graduated, and now are going to college. There are multiple websites that have information about scholarships. 10,000 Degrees in Northern California, it's a program and a nonprofit organization that is trying to promote higher education. 10,000 Degrees provides on average close to $400,000 in scholarships to students in this area. This program is available for students who are graduating high school this year and those who are already at community colleges and universities. The application process starts on October 1st. Another source of funding is the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. This fund provides over $3 million for students to be able to pay for their education. It requires a high GPA, community service, letters of recommendation, information about parents' taxes, if that is available, and the application process starts in January of each year. U.S. citizens, residents, and those who have DACA can apply for the scholarship. Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Scholarship is a scholarship that students starting in the seventh grade can apply for. So students who are in seventh grade have good GPAs, do community service, they can apply for this scholarship usually in the spring semester of their seventh grade. The students then will have the funds put aside until they graduate from high school, but they will get a mentor who will be able to guide them to make sure that they're taking the right classes, getting the right grades to be able to go directly to a university. Students who are in their last year of high school can apply for this scholarship if they have high GPAs, they do community service, so on and so forth. And this application for those students is usually available in the fall semester. The same is true for community college students who are 1 year from transferring to a university. In the fall semester is when they apply for this scholarship. The scholarship can provide $40,000 a year for 4 to 5 years for those in the seventh grade and those who are graduating high school. For those who are at the community college, it will provide the $40,000 a year for 2 and possibly 3 years. The Chicana Latina Foundation Scholarship is available for females who have completed at least 12 units at a community college or university. The application usually is released in January of each year, and each one of the scholarships is for $1,500, and depending on funding, they can give away 30 to 45 scholarships. The funding is not the only benefit out of this scholarship, as one of the biggest benefits is the connections that may be available for these female students in order to get internships or actual future employment. Students don't have to be U.S. citizens or residents in order to apply for this scholarship. PEO California is another scholarship for females only. Half of their funding is focused on people who want to attend a community college or a university in the area of health. And then the rest of the funding is for other careers. It is important that students look for this type of funding in order to be able to lessen the stress of worrying as to how they're going to pay for college. Soroptimist International is another organization that is assisting young women to be able to pay for their education. This organization has chapters all over the place, but you must go to their website and confirm that the chapter exists in your city. Otherwise, you cannot apply for the scholarship. Every chapter comes up with their own funding in order to be able to pay for that scholarship. You're invited to check it out. You're invited to become a member of the organization. You're invited to volunteer with them. And then as a result, it increases the chances when it's time for you to go to college to be able to get the funding necessary. Immigrants Rising is an organization that in the past was called Educators for Fair Consideration. This website not only provides a scholarship for undocumented students who are not DACA, not U.S. citizens or residents, but it has other resources for students and their families who are, again, undocumented. Perhaps one of the best locations for scholarships is fastweb.com. Fastweb.com has over 1.5 million scholarships worth over $3.5 billion. There are many scholarships. If a student is taller than 6 feet 1 inch, or a student is shorter than 5 feet 4 inches, there are students who may benefit from scholarships because they have blue eyes or green eyes or red eyes for that matter. Students who believe in a certain religion get some scholarships. Students who do not believe in religion get other scholarships. Students who play sports when they were young, students who got injured while playing sports, there are scholarships for all of them. And there are students who, again, can benefit from multiple scholarships. The application is a little bit complex and it does take about half hour just to enter all this data and answer all these questions. But typically, at the end of that process, there will be a list of about 20 to 50 possible scholarships. One of the things to keep in mind about scholarships is always to look at local scholarships and then global scholarships. FastWeb also provides an opportunity for students who are creative to participate in different scholarships. At times, a student will get an email that will say, "We want to give you a week or two. We are doing this promotion. We want you to create a drawing, and if we like it, we'll give you a scholarship." Sometimes they want you to create a video, and that scholarship will give you the funding. What we find is that a lot of students are not interested in creating drawings or videos for that matter, and therefore those students who are willing to go through that process likely will get more funding. There are scholarships that come up on a regular basis. The latest one is by the musical group Maná. This scholarship is going to give 15 students $10,000 each. Please check out the website and see if you can still qualify for this scholarship. When we're looking at scholarships, it is important that we follow some basic rules. We should only apply for scholarships that we are eligible for. Therefore, we should always look at the criteria of the scholarship, make sure we meet that criteria, and if not, we must move on to the next application. 2, we should always submit the application in full. I have worked with students for many, many years, and once in a while they will let me know that they didn't complete this part or that part, and that they're hoping that nobody will notice. That brings us to the next one, which is neatness count. We want to make sure that everything is clean, that there are no mistakes, that there are no errors in the application, and again, that everything is filled out correctly. When we talk about deadlines, it's important to know that the application for a scholarship should always be turned in 2 weeks before the actual due date. Those applications will be nicely done. Those applications will have a better chance of being accepted. The reason is, often when we are doing the application the night before it's due, we tend to make mistakes. It is also recommended that students keep a copy of everything they submitted. There have been instances where the student submits an application, and they maintain a copy, and then when they call to check in or email to check in, they said, "We never got your application." "Oh, here's my receipt, here's my documentation." And those students, in fact, often get the scholarship just because the organization feels bad about having lost the information. It is important for students to always feel comfortable asking for assistance. Community colleges, universities, high schools have centers often where students can get support in applying for scholarships. And we always have to remember to write a unique essay which is going to show how you are different than the other 10, 50, or 400 other applicants. Finally, when we think about scholarships, we need to start with local scholarships, Then we move to regional scholarships. Then we move to statewide scholarships. And then we go global. Students need to start with local scholarships because there is simply less competition there. When writing an essay, it is important to brainstorm, taking the time to really think what story we are going to tell. It is also important to be original. If there are 400 applications out there, we need to ask ourselves, how will I make sure that my application, being the first one or maybe the 50th that they're going to read, these individuals will still remember my story by the time they finish the last one. We have to develop a theme. What is it that we want them to know and why? It is also important to learn who our audience is. Are these people my age? Are they high school students? Are they adults? Are they elderly? Why is this important? Because I want to use the language that is appropriate for the audience. If they cannot relate to my story because I'm using language that they're not familiar with, then it is less likely that they will remember my story and obviously less likely that I'll get the scholarship. And then often with the scholarships, it's important to get feedback multiple times. We shouldn't ask a family member, we shouldn't ask a boyfriend or girlfriend to review our essay. They have an emotional connection to the person writing the essay, so they should ask a teacher. Maybe there's a writing lab that you can go to. Maybe there's another adult that is someone who can provide honest feedback. And so it's important to always write, put the essay aside for a couple of days, come back, review the material, do some edits, and then take it to somebody else so that they can give us feedback. When writing the essay, there has to be some form of an outline. What is my introduction going to be? What am I going to share about my past? Perhaps I've had an obstacle, but how did I achieve that obstacle? What skill is unique to me that separates me from all the other applicants? What are my educational goals? Have I done community service? What motivates me to continue with my education? What am I going to use the funding for? And then coming back and closing this essay in a way that will connect me again with the person who's reading it. When talking about the introduction, we must catch the attention of the reader in 1 to 2 sentences. Here are some examples. I have of late been thinking about numbers quite a lot, the number 1 in particular. The idea here is that now the reader is also interested in learning why number 1 is so important. This student was subsequently accepted to Harvard. The next one says, visiting hours are from 3 to 4 and 6 to 8. The room was dimly lit, and whatever light did shine, it only did so sparingly. Again, the reader here should be asking themselves, is this person at a hospital or is this person at a jail or prison? And based on that, the reader hopefully will want to continue reading this essay. This student was accepted later on to NYU. And finally, uproot a tree and replant it, chances are very high that the tree will have difficulty surviving. In this story, it's not about a tree, but it's about immigration. The student was coming from Japan to the United States at an early age, and when she got here, she had a hard time because she missed her family, she missed her friends, she missed her culture, she missed a lot of things. And so the student wasn't learning the language fast enough, the student wasn't acculturating fast enough, and that's why she had many, many difficulties. The student eventually was accepted to Brown University. When writing essays, it's important that we provide the essential information that is going to create a connection with the reader. On a regular basis, I read essays for scholarships that start with, "Hello, my name is." We don't need to put our name on the scholarship essay because the reader already has that in the application. Again, we create a connection by throwing that initial line or sentence, and then we decide what we're going to share with the background. Maybe the fact that we were born in the United States, or the fact that we were immigrants to the United States. Maybe the fact that we are quadrilingual and we can speak several languages, and as a result of that, that will be another connection with the reader. Maybe the fact that we come from single parent households. This is why it's so important to know who is going to be reading the essay. Perhaps the reader is also first in their family to go to college, and there we can make that connection. For individuals who often, when providing information about the household financial information, those individuals who have maybe a parent that makes over $100,000 don't walk away from a scholarship application simply because you assume that they will say, "Oh, they already have all this money." It's important that you acknowledge it. And it's important for you to say, while on paper it may seem that my family is rich, my parents have made it very clear that I will have to figure out how to pay for college. And as a result of that, you clear that so that the reader understands that you also should be considered for the scholarship. But again, the background information is essential, and there's nothing wrong with calling and saying, "Who often reads these essays for this scholarship?" Often individuals will gladly give you that information so that you then can create a scholarship that is going to be helpful for you. When we talk about sharing about ourselves and about our past, it is important to often mention an obstacle. It could be a minor obstacle, it could be something big. But here, when we are sharing about that obstacle, it's important that we don't delve into the obstacle so much because we are trying to make people feel sorry for us. It's about saying, for example, "I come from high poverty, but I haven't allowed that to prevent me from taking AP classes as I plan to attend UC Berkeley," for example. It is important that we don't dwell into the negative part of it, but that we tell them how we are trying to overcome that challenge. There was a student who had cancer at one point in high school, and while many individuals would just get depressed and give up, the student would have her mom take her paper, so homework, all of that stuff on a weekly basis to her hospital. And as a result of that, the student was able to heal from cancer and was able to still graduate with her classmates. Telling a story like that is definitely going to keep the attention of the reader. When we talk about skills, it's also important to share again something unique about ourselves. Maybe I am bilingual. Maybe I have unique computer skills. Maybe I like to do art. Maybe I like to give presentations or speeches. Maybe I compete on a regular basis in poetry competitions, and in some situations I get the prize. Again, this is where they are interested in learning about what makes you different from the other applicants for this scholarship. In order to connect better with the reader of the essay, we need to be clear about what our goals are. Again, here is where we go back to that 10-year plan. What is it that you really want to accomplish? And do you know what steps you're going to take in order to get there? The reader is interested not just on what college or university you're going to attend, but how are you going to get there? and eventually what is your goal and what are the steps that you're going to take. It's important that you take the time and you give them step by step some type of guideline or timeline in general as to how you're going to get there. The reader is interested. If you just say, I would like to or I need to go to college, they start doubting whether or not you're serious about it. If you say, I will start here and then go there and then finalize my degree at this university, then they're going to pay more attention to you. Many of the readers who are going to look at scholarship essays are looking for community service. These individuals assume that if you don't mention community service, you're not doing anything else during your free time. It's okay to mention that you're volunteering at the food bank, and maybe it's only a couple of hours every month, but it has been consistent for 2 or 3 years. It is also important that you understand that if you're part of a religious organization, and let's say on Sundays you go and take care of the children as volunteer work while the parents are in church, that does not qualify as community service because that only benefits a small group of the population. Community service must benefit everybody. You should again also be clear about how long you've been doing this work, and it's important that you do not lie about this. There have been instances where students will say, I have been volunteering in this nonprofit organization for this period of time, and then one of the members of the community will pick up the phone, will call and verify, only to find out that that is not the case. Also, some high schools require students to do community service hours as part of the graduation requirement. Those students cannot use those hours and double dip and say, I've done 50 hours. Well, it was required for you to do it. Community service means that it came from you, the idea to go out there and do something for the benefit of your community. You should always do community service, even again if it is 1 or 2 hours per month. Now, there are some individuals who will not be able to do community service, and those individuals are, for example, students who leave high school every day, go pick up a younger brother, younger sister, take them home, take care of them until 9 or 10 p.m. when the parents go home, and therefore they cannot do community service. Here's the important part about that. If you cannot do community service, it's better for you to mention the reason why as opposed to just pretending that they will not inquire about it. The same thing goes to a certain degree for students who are playing sports for the schools. They can explain, I would like to do community service more often, but unfortunately I have this responsibility, this other responsibility, so on and so forth. In telling about why you're going to college, it is important that you never say, I'm going to college because I want to make money. Yes, everybody needs money. They already know that. But what is really the item that is motivating you to get there? For individuals who want to be nurses, the item is to provide a service to members of the community, to make people feel comfortable when they are most at risk because maybe they are sick. Maybe you're just interested in that area of study, whether it is geology or biology or chemistry or psychology for that matter. Tell them how, by you getting funding now and then getting educated, you're going to be a good investment to the community that you're going to serve. And specifically, it cannot be because your parents want you to pursue that degree. I had a student once who said, my mom wanted to be a nurse, but then she got pregnant with me, and therefore she could not go to college. I'm going to become a nurse to make sure that my mom's dream becomes a reality. Nobody's going to give you money for that. You have to do it because it's something that draws you. Again, you enjoy the area of study, you want to support the community, something along those lines. And then there is the moment where you have to speak about why you need the money. There's nothing wrong with saying that you want the money to pay for all the classes and other fees at the community college or university that you're going to attend, that you're going to need the money for books because we all know that books are extremely expensive. Maybe you need it for lab equipment, or simply you need a new laptop because the one that you had is no longer going to function for you. You should never say that you need the money for transportation. You should also not say that you need the money for food or clothing. You can use the money that you get from scholarships for all of that, but people will not give you the money if you just say it's for transportation, food, or clothing. You should always focus again on class fees, books, lab equipment, laptops, because you also don't know how many scholarships you may end up getting. It is important to remember that when you're in high school, in your last year of high school, you should be applying for 6 scholarships a month. When you're in college, you should be applying, or university, you should be applying for 2 scholarships every month. This is how some students have paid for their education. I had one student who used fastweb.com, and she would apply for so many scholarships that after she finished, she went to the community college, then she went to the university, got a bachelor's. With scholarship money, she paid for housing, food, transportation, clothing, and everything else. And after she graduated, she still had between 15 and 16,000 in a bank account. That money was meant for her master's degree. And so it's important that you make it clear. Now, the only reason why you would mention transportation is if you're going to do study abroad. There is a scholarship specifically to assist students with study abroad, and on average is a $5,000 scholarship, and that would be the only one where you would mention that you need the funding for transportation. It is also important to say thank you. Examples of this would be thank you for your consideration of my request, or thank you for taking the time to read my essay, or thank you for taking the time to review my application. The goal here is to make that final connection with the reader. They have taken the time to read your essay, they have reviewed your application. Why not connect one last time by letting them know how much we appreciate this? And with that, I want to thank you for taking the time and reviewing this video. The goal here is that you learn a couple of things. One is new tools on how to write a scholarship essay. This is useful again for some students who are applying for private universities, or in California, the UC system requires you to write essays. But also, hopefully, you have learned now that there are other scholarships out there, whether they're local, regional, statewide, or national scholarships. That is my email address, lideresdelfuturo@yahoo.com, and my company, my organization is called Líderes del Futuro, or Future Leaders. You're also welcome to listen to my show. I have a show on kbbf.org every Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I invite you. I have information about many items in there, including education. I thank you for your time.